Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you're all well. I'm jumping on with an impromptu live Q&A. I have lots of questions lined up that have been submitted, but normally we like to schedule these weekly in advance to give you guys time to see it and jump on live. So this is just me fitting it in. So 9:15 is a strange time to be doing lives. It's the only time I have free today, and I had lots of questions from the community that I promised I would get done. So I'm here live at the recording studio, my own little sanctuary, my own little private space here. The team don't get to come here. This is my little recording area, podcast studio, dream making center. So over to the other side, I've got probably 500 business books. You'll see me doing lots of 60-second reviews on those. Big TVs, recording areas, different scenes, whiteboards, and all the hopes and dreams for Pillow. So this is where I am. This is where I do the live videos, and I'm going to jump in with the questions. So guys, thank you very much. I tried to get everyone because I've posted in various groups. So if I haven't covered it, it's not that I'm excluding you. It's just that I have missed it. So jumping on to the first question, guys. Should I put a hot tub in to get more bookings in 2026? Last year was slow. So a few things for hot tubs. Definitely consider the cost of these, not just the cost in time, and not just the cost in money, but the cost in time as well. Lots of operational concerns around this, lots of extra things you need to do, and definitely lots of maintenance costs. So will it make you more money and get you more bookings than not having it? How do we explore that? Have a look and see what your competitors are doing. Would it give you the edge if you're in an area where your unit would be the only one with a hot tub? Would that be the difference that gets you more bookings? So don't do it just because it used to be a great thing to do. That always kind of led to more profit. These days, I don't know. I'd say 50-50 on that. In some areas, it's a no-brainer. You need to do it. And lots of other areas, it's just not going to make you any more money above and beyond what you're going to spend, the time, the legislation, the operation around it. So you're going to need to have somebody probably empty that, do lots of stuff around it so there's more costs. But have a look and see what your competitors are doing. Have a look at other similar properties in similar areas to see what the margin is. What is the difference in the nightly rates that other people are getting, or what do you believe you can get if you know your market very well, based on what you got last year, what your rates are now? What is the difference, and what's it going to cost you? And add them up. Just do some spreadsheets and do some guesswork here. Can also speak to local agents that know the area. Do they believe, if you're not using an agent, do they believe that would get you more bookings? What's somebody with a larger portfolio, with a bigger data set, able to offer? Can you go into these price analysis tools? I think we use Price Labs, but there's their DNA. Can you actually see some hard facts on whether this would earn you more money on your nightly rates? So you can definitely go in, use tools like Price Labs we use to do analysis, other things like Property Market Intel. It can show you the 10 best performing properties in your region. See what competition's doing and see what the difference in bookings would be in nightly rate. So hopefully that helps. Next question, as a landlord, do I now get taxed at a higher rate, 2% more on all income? So the last budget, property investors are getting 2% on their property generated income. So again, not a tax person, and double check this. There's some recent things in Scotland with the Scottish budget, so I'm going to answer that for the English landlords. Yes, 2% on any property income. So as a landlord, you will pay a higher rate of income tax on that income. I don't believe it's an all income. I think it's just property generated income. So if you have a job and a career as well, this isn't anything to do with that. It's just your property income. I don't know how your accountant will deal with that. They released something yesterday, I believe. I have to go in and deep dive on it. But I think the Scottish government are going to follow suit. There's no way that they're not going to tax property when the English government is. So maybe by the time you watch this video, that has been clarified. But I would suspect Scotland's going to give you definitely 2% more. Why wouldn't they just tax more? Because they always tax more. They detest landlords. socialist government. So there's a good chance that it's definitely going to be 2%, maybe more in Scotland. But my knowledge, my belief is it's only on property generated income. So hopefully that helped. But again, always check. Your accountant will know all of this as well. If you're planning to do property stuff in the future, definitely plan for a minimum of 2%. Now, this is a start. 2% extra in property income on this budget. Maybe they leave it a year. Would that increase? So that your profits, or sorry, your income from property generated activities are getting taxed at a higher and higher rate as next budgets progress on. So yes, it's 2%, but could that go to 3% and 4%? Definitely worth considering. Lovely. Next question. Hi Scott, any suggestions on what to say to a letting agent that would be doing a company let, but they've been truly burnt by a bad operator in the past? So trying to get letting agents to give you rent to rents, big chunky topic. I will get the team to put a video down here because I think there's a 20-minute answer to this, 20-minute version of this answer. But essentially, just you rent to rents with letting agents. I'm a letting agent. Set up the business in 2006, so have an insight into this. You need to work with the letting agent for what is best in two things. One, for them, but predominantly, hopefully, if it's a good agent, what is best for their client. Would a rent-to-rent work better for their client? So any medium-sized agent where the person, the principal, is there operating the business, not a big super corporate, because you'll never get them, forget them. I say never. Let's focus on the low-hanging fruit. If you've got a person there that cares about the business, it's the name above the door, so to speak. They're the owner and the operator of that management company. You want to reach out to them and ask them if they've got any suitable property. So you might see a property, but it might have 30 people queued around the block every time that needs to get let. So that's not going to be suitable because there's no pain point for them or indeed their landlord. However, if you're speaking to agents, you can forget all this bullshit script that people teach. Maybe it works, but again, remember when you're going into with your script that you've been taught, remember that same agent for that same property has heard that same pitch 10 times that week. So every single decent property that works for rent to SA, rent to service accommodation, unless you're the first person, every agent's going to get the same email, the same phone call about that property. There were many people doing what you're doing. So the approach I would take is find landlords with pain points, with issues. So maybe they have a portfolio and cash flow is a really bad thing. Maybe they've been burnt by tenants before. Maybe they're scared of the renter's rights bill. Maybe they don't have any money for repairs. And your letting agent will help you identify these people. So you speak to your letting agent. Again, bigger 20-minute version of this, but you want your agent to be fighting for you to find those landlords that they can help. So ones where they know the landlord's in financial trouble and a little month's loss of rent is going to hurt them financially. Maybe they don't have money to get the repairs and get the property up to the standard that the letting agent requires, and it's causing the agent hassle. So if you make the agent your friend, find their pain points. Yes, you'll get pleasure points so you can give them more money and incentives, etc. But genuinely, if that agent cares about their landlords, they will go and seek out landlords where the rent-to-rent solution is the best thing for them. If we're trying to approach agents for properties that are just going to rent all day long and they can rent and there's no problems, but if the agent doesn't have a problem and a landlord doesn't have a problem, they will just put it onto the normal rental market. But there are many landlords there don't want to put tenants in, they can't sell because maybe they're negative equity, etc. So your agent can go and find the landlords with pain points, and they will fight for you because they are also getting that property managed. They're getting money for that. They're not getting cut out, but they are getting a solution for them where they can get a management fee. There's somebody taking that property for their landlord. They're the guys in the middle. They've set up this good deal, so they get brownie points. They get the management fees, and you get a good rent-to-rent property. I don't want to go in too deep on this, guys, because it's quite a big chunky topic. There's people doing 2-day courses on this, but as an agent, if you need any more clarification on how I would like to be approached by these deals, again, I get approached all the time, and I would genuinely have no problems knowing what I know about the rent-to-rent industry. For some landlords, I think we manage well over 300 units. for residential, for buy-to-let with a letting agency. Many of those would be an amazing fit for rent-to-rent operators, just because I know the landlord doesn't have lots of money to do the repairs. It's maybe not suitable. The tenants are always bad, but it would work for SA. So guys, you just need to get that right fit. But that right fit probably isn't you hitting right move and seeing a property that you think is right. You want to get a good relationship with that letting agent, get them fighting for the landlords they know it is a good fit, and get the properties as they become available before they hit right move, ready for renewal. Great, next question. Guys, if you're watching live and you've got any questions you want to fire in, put them into the chat. Hopefully they come up here and I'll bring them onto the screen, just like the ones that have been pre-submitted. So this is a question from Kevin. Hopefully you're watching. Hi, Kevin. What's the best end user for a rent-to-rent besides standard HMO? Kevin has a fantastically successful rent to HMO business in Ireland. Again, in the UK, we tend to do, some people do rent to HMO, but with the works to the properties, most people do rent to service accommodation. That's essentially where my knowledge lies. So I would always say short-term rentals is a great fit for rent to rents, and HMOs, a lot more consistency, a lot more standard money coming in. With rent to service accommodation, that is massively unpredictable. It fluctuates. So there's pros and cons. I did my first rent to rent back in 2002. So we didn't call it rent to rent. I didn't really have a name for it then. There wasn't the term serviced accommodation then. There was no Airbnb in 2002. So I think HMO works well. Kevin, you've got your niche. Just keep replicating that for what you're doing. But when I say rent to SA, you can do corporate lets as well. So if you're there and you're in the industry and you have people needing properties from businesses, for example, and then these are a great fit because you can do a little mixture of SA and HMO. It's a kind of half and half. But if you can get corporate lets in and put workers in, then this is the absolute perfect golden solution for rent to SA. If you can fill those units before you commit to a rent to rent agreement, then that is the perfect solution. Nice. So this one I decided to keep in. When unexpected operational or financial issues arise, what safeguards should be in place to ensure landlords continue to receive timely payment? And understand why this was made, because it was made towards us at Pillow. So 20 years we've been in operation, never had any problems. Last year we faced some issues. So I'm going to answer this from a managing agent's point of view for other managing agents there, so that you don't have the same issues. So a couple of things. What safeguards should be in place to ensure your landlord clients continue to receive timely payouts? So number one here is don't just rely on one Stripe account. Last year, Stripe just said, hi, we've noticed you've had some credit card refunds, and we are just going to withhold 25% of your client money. So imagine your client account, 25% of all credit card payments. Stripe just decided to keep for 90 days. And then they say, well, we're going to keep any future income from your credit card payments for 90 days, meaning that you're in a 90-day cash flow deficit for 25% of your money. So multiple Stripe accounts are here. Another thing, another safeguard for agents, if you're building a property management business, definitely get some other thing in place to verify your guests. Maybe your PMS system did it. We used what was meant to be the world's best PMS system. They got $500,000 of investment. It should have been the world's best, but there was a little flaw in it, and guests could do chargebacks. So for us, we had to get extra software. I believe we use Charge Automation. It costs us thousands and thousands of pounds a month, but that guest verification and just double checking that means that we can't have any chargebacks. We can't have clawbacks because we've got stuff in place. And if the guest goes through our verification now at Pillow, they can't, the credit card company can't refuse that. So we've got extra safeguards in place here as well. For hosts, what happens if unexpected operational and financial issues arrive? I would always say have 3-month operating expenses in your bank account. So if I go back to the days of when we started the first management business in 2006, rent would come in and landlords would sometimes expect to rent on that day. They would set up all their direct debits, something I learned in the early days. They set up the direct debits for the days the rent would come in or the rent was due. Now, don't have your direct debits like the same day as your rent's due, because it might flip over, might be a weekend, might be a bank holiday. Have a couple of months operating expenses there, so that if a tenant or a guest or the payment's a few days late for whatever reason, that your direct debits don't bounce. Running a business as a host or a landlord where you're just relying on that money coming in on that specific day, and if it's a day late, if a guest or a tenant pays a day late, for example, or if it's a corporate let and a company's finance person's off and it's like 3 days later over a weekend and your direct debits bounce, then that's going to cause you lots of hassle. So you definitely don't want your direct debits close to the normal payment date, and you definitely don't want that only 1 month's income in your bank account. Every business should have 3. Well, we say 3. Depends on how much money you've got. I need to be realistic for some businesses, but as a landlord, you definitely want to have some buffer money there, some money for unexpected repairs. If you're expecting, we had an invoice in one of our properties, I saw it today, 2,700 quid for this emergency boiler thing. I just saw the invoice that needs to get taken off one of our host payments. They've authorised this, but that is money that they might be expecting. That's 2,700 quid less that they're not going to get this month, that they would have put into their cash flow. So if they're relying on that to pay mortgage payments, and they go into default because they have to pay a boiler, and you need to get a boiler. We didn't organise it. It was the property manager that organised the boiler on behalf of the host, so that was all done out with Pillow Partners thing. But that host will get £2,700 less this month than they would have expected last month. So always have some operating costs there. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you're watching, bang some questions in. I need to get done in the next 10 minutes. Back to back with calls today. Right, so the next question, I've had to apply for planning permission with Amber Valley Council, but nothing fixed. Have you ever had to go through this, and what class do you go under? Is it C3? So I don't know about that specific council, but there are lots of local authorities and they all do things different. This is starting to change now, but back when we did service accommodation in 2002, even in the kind of mainstream thing from 2008, 2009, 2010 onwards, when it became a little bit more mainstream and people were setting up Airbnb accounts when it came to the UK, very few local authorities could comprehend what service accommodation is. So if you're in a kind of classic holiday home area, you will probably know about this. So if you're talking about the Lake District, Whitby, Filey, and the Peak District, then the local authorities will have an awareness of this. But we, as service accommodation operators, kind of jumped in and flooded the market with all of these properties. So that put councils in a different position. Most councils, you're dealing with people that you probably know more about the process than them. Certainly any decent agent or any operator that's been going for 10 years would know a lot more than probably a lot of people in the local authorities. They're all finding their feet now. There's central information coming down from central government, but every local authority does things different. Some don't want planning permission, some do. Some don't care, some insist on C3 or C1, whatever that is. So just double check with your local authority, and you need to push. You may need to not use the term serviced accommodation. Find out what their terminology is. Is it furnished holiday let? Is it self-catering? Is it apart hotels? Just speak to someone, and there's always local advisors that do these in your area. But I don't know the answer to that specific council, but they are all different, and lots of times they won't want to give you an answer. They won't want to commit to this. So you might get to speak to somebody on the phone and they're very vague. Please just keep following that up by email and get them to commit to something one way or another. If you are going to go or not get planning permission, I'll just leave it residential, not change the business rates over to council tax, because that's the advice you've been given. If you do that based on a phone call, they'll come back and they'll retrospectively say you were wrong. Get it in an email to protect yourself as well. The councils will be very reluctant to put that in an email, but you need to push them for it. So just say, listen, I need to get that in an email. Sorry, I don't understand. Could you put that in an email for me, so that you've got their decision there? All local authorities different. Just try and speak to someone that knows. Many people don't. Right, this is, I think, the last question I've got. What is it like working with your wife? Does this cause friction in your marriage at all? So thank you very much for that question. Emma and I are co-founders of Pillow. We've been working for many years, but I got married last November. So Emma and I work together very closely, and we're also married. So does this cause friction in your marriage at all? I'm going to say two answers to that, guys. It's the same answer, but it's two different viewpoints. Number one is I am very lucky that Em and I never have friction on anything. We don't argue. We support each other. We want each other to be the best in life. We don't get jealous of other people's dreams. We genuinely try to encourage and help each other, and we have an awareness of how each other feels. So if Emma's having a bad day, I can say, well, I'm not going to react to that. If I'm having a bad day and I'm grumpy, Emma knows, well, I'll just stay out of Scott's way because he's been a dick. He's been cranky. So I'll leave him be. And we understand each other well enough. And I'm going to say we're soulmates. We understand each other well enough to know that we're not going to react to each other because we're building a big business here. What we're trying to achieve with Pillow in a UK-wide company would send other people to the nut house with stress. So we understand that we're operating at a higher level. We're trying to always push ourselves, self-develop, and be the best we can. So we know how each other are. So we have a nice understanding of each other. Whatever reason we've been cranky, we know that's not who each other are. So we're very lucky. I say lucky. We're a nice match that we don't have any friction in life. And if we do have a little bit of friction, then we can understand why that is. And if somebody is saying something that's annoying, then we communicate about that. So there's lots of communication. That is the answer, which is 95%. And it's where we are now. It's 100%. But to answer that, if I go back to when we first started, it did cause friction because I was an asshole, essentially. So we have a great understanding. We know each other. But back in the early days, Emma was kind of first person to join us, and she gave up a job to join Pillow and grow the franchise network. Many years ago, maybe 10 years ago. But back then, I wasn't as mature a person. I wasn't as mature a leader as I was, and I wasn't the best communicator. So as I've advanced as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a partner, we don't have friction, but any friction would have been caused by me in the early days by being a dick and running things my way. And it was always me for the previous 10 years there. So what does that mean for anyone thinking of setting up business with their partner? Does it, back in the day, guys, I would never differentiate between partner time and business time, because I was not going, my crazy dyslexic ADHD brain would just jump up mid-film on a romantic Saturday night and start doing business. I'll jump away and take calls. So some advice for you guys that are going to be building businesses together. And by the way, guys, we have amazing things for property management business. If you'd love to join us and build something like Emma and I have built, then you can build a management business, and Emma will be your coach. We'll give you all the systems. So we have these conversations as a husband and wife team, or partner and partner, or wife and wife, husband and husband, whatever that is. Some tips and advice. You definitely need to set boundaries of when personal time is and when the business time is. You need to communicate with your partner. You need to both want to be in business together. You both want each other to advance and grow, because if one person is just an employee, and I'll use the example of joining us at Pillow or starting a business in any way, but one person's going to be an entrepreneur. They're going to get lots of new skills, and they're going to have pressures under them because they're now entrepreneurs rather than employees. One person's going to stay the same. The other person is going to advance. They're going to get training. They're going to be better communicators, better salespeople, more resilient. So if one person's staying the same and the other person is advancing forward, you need to be okay with that. You need to support each other. But again, if you can both grow at the same level and advance, I think that's a kind of perfect thing. So hopefully that answers it. Again, we'll go a little bit deeper on that. Normally we talk about serviced accommodation, but what happens if your husband or wife isn't supporting your dreams when you've got these goals, you want to build a dream life, quit your job, start your own business and property, and your partner doesn't support you? Well, that can be very, very challenging. So we can expand on that. If anybody wants to pop me a DM with any specific stuff, I'll put it in my name so that the names don't come up. It'll be anonymous. But working with your husband or wife, I think it's the best, amazing thing ever. because when we go home, I'm in the office, and I'll be out and about doing property management today. When we go home tonight, we go home having had the same challenges. We talk about the same things. So if one person's got a corporate job and another person's doing something else, you often can't communicate because your days have been totally different. So I think it's one of the best, most fulfilling things ever. I couldn't imagine having a wife or a partner that wasn't in the business, that we weren't sharing the same big dream. Maybe they could be working towards something even as amazing as what I'm trying to build. They could be building up the career ladder and being the best in the whole of the UK in their career as an employee. But these are kind of different things. So I think it's just the perfect match to be working with your partner, building something amazing, sharing those challenges, the good things, the bad times as well. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I need to get done under half an hour here, so thank you very much for your time. I can't see any other questions coming in. If you have watched this on a replay somewhere and you have a question, please let me know and I'll do it next week, guys. Happy Friday, have a great weekend. Any other questions, please let me know. Have a great day. Cheers.